My name is Joe Reichard. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Saab Doctor. On today's episode, we are going to be doing a Haldex differential service in an NG95. Now this will also apply to 94X and cross-wheel drive 93, and I will explain the differences between the three cars as we're going through on the NG95. Stay tuned. Alright, now I just want to give a quick thanks to eSaabParts for getting all the parts out to us. This is their cross-wheel drive service kit. They are the only ones that I know of that actually sell you the three correct fluids. First off, starting at the back of the differential, you have your actual differential fluid. So this is LS gear oil 75W90. In the round bottle, you have your Haldex fluid. This is what's going to go into the actual Haldex pump, and that goes in along with the filter and the seal. And then last but not least, this is your transfer case oil. Now we're going to be putting all of this into the car using this handy dandy pump. These are like $5-ish at your parts store. Everything else is just standard hand tools that we're going to use. If you'd like, before you do this, you can take the car out for a drive, get the fluids a little bit warm to try and get extra dirt and debris out. That is optional. You don't have to do that or not. I actually had to drive the car here, so I did that. So next up, I'm going to jack the car up. Alright, now once your car is up in the air, what you're going to do is you're going to grab, I like to use an open drain pan that's been wiped out. That way you can see any debris that comes out. So if any metal shavings, anything like that, you can watch the health of the fluid. And you grab a 3/8 ratchet. I grabbed this one with an extension. We're going to start at the back of the diff. So we're going to start with the actual gear oil first. Okay, anytime that you are working with something where you have a drain and a fill, you want to crack the fill open first. Alright, so you crack the fill open first. You just want to remove that. And that way, you don't have any like air glugs or anything like that when it's draining out the bottom. And then you can crack it open. Now, realistically, there shouldn't be much, if any, fluid coming out of the fill port. If it is, the car might be tilted a little far back. There was only a little bit that ran out right there. Alright, now while you do this, what you're going to want to do is make sure that the seal is still on the drain, and you want to clean this end of the drain off, just anything that's on there. There should be a little bit of, any type of material on there, because that is actually made to collect any of the metal that might be coming off from usage. So if you see anything on there, don't be alarmed, just wipe it off unless there's an excessive amount or big chunks. And there we go. That is actually nice and clean now. I just wiped it off a little bit. Alright, now while that diff oil is draining underneath there, we're going to grab the new oil, which is the LS gear oil, crack it open. And then we're going to take our filler, our pump, and just screw it right on there. Now, for the other two fluids, this will not actually screw on. For this one it does. It makes it a whole lot easier. If you want, you can give it a few pumps to get it circulating through. You don't really have to until you're underneath the car. But that, that's how it works. And yeah, this just, on this size, it'll actually just screw on. Alright, so now that that's all drained, grab your drain plug, put it back in, and snug it up. And then what you're going to do next is you're going to take the fill side of your pump, put it in the differential, and start pumping the fluid in. And you want to pump the fluid in until it starts running back out of the differential. Alright, there we go. You see this nice steady stream coming back out. That's how you know that it's full. I normally take it, I give it a couple more pumps after that. Then I pull the hose out. Let it drain for a second until it starts slowing down. Like that. And then put the plug back in. So now your rear differential fluid, the actual differential portion, is full. Just make sure to tighten everything up. Alright, so now your differential fluid is actually full. Now don't forget, once you've finished this up, just kind of wipe this down a little bit. You don't want to leave excess fluid laying on here. It may freak you out in the future if you do. If you really want to clean it up, you can actually grab some brake clean. All right, next up you want to grab an 18 millimeter, an extension, or 2 or 3, and either a ratchet or a impact gun. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be removing 4 bolts that hold the differential in. You'll also want to put a jack underneath the differential to hold it up so you can lower it down slowly. This is so you can access the side plate that houses the Haldex filter and where you fill the Haldex fluid. You do not have to do this on the 94X. You still have to do the filter and the fluid, but you do not have to lower the differential. You have to lower the differential on both 9.3 and NG9.5. And just so you can see in the open where these bolts are that you're going to be removing, 2 of them will be on the back. Now this is actually the bottom side of the differential. 2 of them will be on the back, 2 of them will be on the bottom. And these are what hold the Haldex differential up. This is also, you can remove this side portion, and this is where the filter and everything is housed. Okay, now my trick to this is you actually remove the 2 rear-facing ones first, and then you remove the 2 bottom ones and slowly let the diff down with the hydraulic jack. Okay, now once these 2 bolts are out, all that's holding up are the 2 in the bottom. So we'll grab the hydraulic jack, put it underneath, support it, and then slowly let it down after we release. Okay, when supporting the differential, all you want to do is apply a little bit of pressure. You aren't trying to jack up on it. Alright, now with the jack supporting it, remove the 2 bolts that are holding it up. Now you can gently let the jack down. The rear axles and the drive shaft will hold the differential up. Okay, now that the differential is lowered, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to grab an 8 millimeter and you're going to want to crack the fill plug first. After that, you're going to remove 10 screws with the 4 millimeter hex. So let's get underneath there and do that. Do not forget, the 10th screw is the one directly in the middle. You do not want to forget that and start trying to pry it or anything. This should take no force to remove. The only thing you'll have to pull off is the breather, and we're actually going to use the breather for a few extra pumps of Haldex fluid after we fill it through the fill port. Alright, first we're going to crack the fill port. You don't have to take that all the way off, just make sure it's loose. So in addition to your standard 8 and 4 millimeter that we have, what you might want to do is you might want to try and find a short, like a short one to have, you know, a short ratchet with a hex that fits. So I have this. This is really good for getting in tight spaces, and there are going to be some tight spaces on the NG95 and the 93. Now if you take these and you crack all of the ones around the bottom, what you can actually do is you can get it to drain some of the fluid out before you have to take the entire side off. Alright, now at this point, to remove the cover, you take a big flat blade screwdriver and pry the breather tube off. Now it might take a little finagling to get it around the exhaust. There you go. It's out. Now you should have the cover and 10 screws on the ground. At this point, remove the gasket. Pull out the filter. This filter is actually relatively clean. This was just replaced 15,000 miles ago. Alright, now that the cover is off, I just want to show you all. This is why you want to replace, or I should say, change your Haldex fluid as often as possible. This has 15,000 miles on it, and this is actually a little bit more dirty than I expected. Just so you know, the car was not airing out, there was no issues, nothing like that. I'm just changing it preventatively to make sure that we don't have any issues with this. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to clean this up, then we're going to start putting it all back together. So to clean this in particular up, I'm just going to use a little bit of brake parts cleaner. I'm going to wipe this out, spray it in, and then wipe it out again. Alright, now I'm going to grab my genuine filter kit. I'm going to head back under the car with this cover. Now there is a torque spec for this. I'm going to take it, I'm going to put it in the description below. Unfortunately, when you're doing this on the car itself, it's very, very difficult to fit a torque wrench in, if you can even fit it in. I know that I've been using that extremely thin ratchet that I showed you, because there's just not a ton of clearance on there. So if you can fit a torque wrench in, the torque spec is below. Otherwise, I am going to go snug plus probably about a half turn if I can. Try not to snug it up too much. You don't want to crush this too much, but you just want to make sure that it is tight enough. Alright, I have sprayed a little bit of brake clean on here. I'm just going to wipe this out a little bit. But most of the gunk and whatnot is on the other side. Alright, first you want to take the filter, you want to put it in, you want to make sure that it clicks. Alright, perfect. Then you want to grab the gasket, you want to make sure that you put it on the right way. Now sometimes these gaskets come a little bit bent. Just bend them back how they fit. Alright, once you have that all lined up, take your cover, slip it over, and line everything up. Now one thing I do is I start off with these bottom two because I can actually see them easily. Line those up and screw them in. I don't screw them in all the way. I just screw them in until they're like 3/4 to 7/8 of the way. This gives me a good alignment gauge right here. Just remember, you need to find the spots for all 10 of them. Sometimes finding them blind is a little difficult. But just take your time, get them all in there, because you're going to want to also go through and snug them up after you're done. Alright, once you tighten them up, just take one more trip around, make sure they're all nice and tight. Then obviously you want to wipe this down a little bit. Next up, pull the fill plug out. Alright, now at this point, it's time to grab the Haldex fluid. This is the stuff in the round bottle. And you want to grab the pump. You want to make sure that you've emptied the pump out completely of any excess fluids that might be in there from the differential. Or from the gear oil, I should say. Now this one, you won't be able to screw this on here. This will just float around on here. Alright. Put the fill hose in. Start pumping your Haldex fluid in. And you'll pump it in through the fill port until it starts coming out. Alright, started coming out there. So now what we're going to do is put the fill plug in. Tighten it down. Just remember, this is an aluminum screw in an aluminum piece. You don't need to really reef on it too hard. Alright, now with the fill port snugged, what you're going to do is you're going to take your hose with your Haldex fluid yet up to where the breather goes in. Now this, at least mine, does not fit over, so I'm going to have to hold it on. Now just remember, at this point you're trying to fill through a breather tube, so you're probably going to make a bit of a mess, but you want to get as much fluid in there as you can. So what this does is this helps top off the differential. Alright, so at this point I'm going to take it, I'm going to actually wipe off the cover, and I'm going to put the breather back on. Now there's a possibility that it's going to throw an error and it might need to be topped off again. That happens actually quite often after a refill. So what you want to do in that instance is take it and continue refilling it through the breather. Make sure your breather is completely seated back on there. This may require a needle nose pliers if you can't get a grip on it. Alright, that's fully seated. So then, I'm going to put this exhaust hanger back in. I did pull one exhaust hanger off just for a little extra room. I'm going to move everything out of the way, and then we're going to jack the differential back up into place and put the bolts in. At this point, the rear differential, which is the hardest part, is done. All that's left is changing the fluid in the transfer case, and that is a simple drain and fill. So we will do that now. Alright, now last but not least is the transfer case. Now for the transfer case, at least on the NG95, you're going to need an 8mm. Now both the drain plug is an 8mm and so is the fill plug. However, on the NG95, with the fill plug, what you're going to need to do is take an Allen key and actually shorten it up so it'll fit. This is the one that I have. I use this on the 9.3, the NG95, and the 9.4X. I don't think you need one shortened up this much for all three, but it definitely helps out. So a shortened up Allen key and a regular Allen key will do the job. Let's get on under there. Oh. And then this is the fluid. It's the last of the 3 fluids that comes in the eSaabParts kit. So let's get under there and let's get it changed. Okay, so this may be hard to see. Your fill plug is actually right up here, and this is the passenger side on a US spec car. So it's right next to the downpipe coming down. We'll want to crack that first. So you take your shortened Allen key, give it a pull forward toward the front of the car. And I always remove these at that point. Alright. You'll just want to check the condition of the washer on it to make sure it's okay. And then we can take this and we can set this off to the side, and then we'll pull the front one. All right, so the drain plug is right here on the front of the unit, right there. So it's just another 8mm. Now you'll take it, you'll crack it loose, and then remove completely. I'm actually going to lift the pan up a little bit just in case it sprays. Alright. Then what you'll do is you'll actually want to clean all the stuff off of the magnet on the end. This one has quite a bit. Alright, well that's draining. You just want to make sure you get all your Haldex fluid out of the pump because you're going to be using this again. And obviously you wipe down the pump after every single use. And if you'd like, you can crack open your fluid right now. That's what I do. And then this one, it actually screws to. You can't screw down very tight. It'll screw to nice and loose. Alright, so then we just finish up letting that drain, and we fill it back up. Alright, now that that's all drained, take your plug that's now been cleaned up. It's all ready to reinstall. Take that, put it back in. Snug that up. Perfect. Alright, so the drain plug is back in. Let's move over to the side again. Alright, now this is going to be hard to see on camera just because of where this is. You take the tube and you put it into the fill plug and start pumping fluid into it. Just like the rear differential, you take this and you pump it until it starts coming back out. Now a slow drip is not enough to signify that it's full. You want to get a nice steady flow coming back out of it. Alright, there we go. That's how we know it's full. Let me grab the plug. Now at that point I normally give it one more pump, pull the hose, put the plug in. Alright, so you can snug the hose, so you can snug the plug with your fingers. Make sure to grab your shortened Allen key and tighten it all the way. Alright, make sure it's good and snug. Then wipe it all down. Okay, now at this point, you're actually completely done with the fluid change. Two suggestions that I have. Number one, if you have an MDI or a Tech 2, go in, run the pump, and then top it off with a bit more Haldex fluid. Normally it needs a little bit extra. Otherwise, you can take it and drive it. If your rear differential errors out, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to top it off a bit with more Haldex fluid. So what it always is, it's pretty standard. Normally either a little air gets in or something, and you just need to get a little bit of extra fluid into the system. If you have any questions, please just post them below. Just so you know, this probably took me about 2 hours, including filming, laying everything out, explaining it. So it's not a hard process. However, it is a little bit involved, and you want to make sure that you have enough time that you're not rushing through it. So if you have any questions or anything, post them below. All the tools, all the links to parts, everything you need will be in the description. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and Saab on, folks.